In my dreams I've kissed your lips 1,000 times. I sometimes see you pass outside my door. Hello, is it me you're
looking for?
Yes, there it is. So triumphant.
I can see it in your smile.
He can see it in your smile, Aaron, and so can I. It must be Friday. Good morning, Aaron. It's Fantasy NBA Today. That was either the special treat for our listeners that you and I were hoping, or it's the moment that we lost all of the credibility we've built over the last few weeks. For me, at least, few weeks. For you, it's been years, and I may have just dashed it in one song.
Yeah, that was a bad idea in hindsight.
Forget hindsight. I think that was a great idea at this exact moment. I like the idea when it started, and I like the idea right now. And frankly, the next thing that I get you to say, I'm going to take every second of that to go look at the chat room and see if people enjoyed or hated our Lionel Richie intro. Because if they liked it, oh boy, just think of what our next song could be. Next Friday, what are we opening to?
Next Friday, I don't know, some ABBA.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work. Should we just go like all Swedish pop for a week?
Yeah, why not? I mean, half of our listeners won't know what it is, and we will be introducing them to the greatness that is ABBA.
I really wish that. Oh, see, SKD Media really enjoyed that classic opening. So we're 1 for 1 on the good side. Anyway, this is Fantasy NBA Today, and we're going live because for those of you that missed the Monday show, our benefactor here, Aaron Bruski, decided that everything stays free for one more week. So we're doing a few more chats. We're kind of previewing what Hoopball premium subscribers will get once they become a premium asset. And I think people really like it. There are a lot of people in the chat room that are talking even before this show started. And that'll, I think, probably see to it that we end up here for the full hour. But on behalf of all of the people talking at us right now, Aaron, thank you, because you kept this stuff free for another week. And I think people really appreciated that.
Yeah, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're running by the seat of our pants, but we're kind of just watching things and seeing how they go. And we want to make sure that enough of you get to see what the nighttime show is all about. And that way you can know what you're getting when you get the in-season premium package. So that is something we're going to keep up here for a little bit. I wasn't planning on breaking any news, but I am flying by the seat of my pants here. And I kind of feel like we might keep it open like a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking that might not be the worst idea either.
I mean, I'm just thinking out loud right now. Maybe we just keep it open a little bit longer. Not a lot longer, just a little bit longer. What do you think? What do you think, Dan? I'm
on board with that. I'm on board with it because honestly, I mean, this is right now sort of a pivotal time for the podcast because you've got the shows kind of going on their divergent streams or RSS feeds, as it were. You can subscribe to Fantasy NBA Today on iTunes now. As of a few moments ago, you can get it on TuneIn Radio. It should be on Stitcher soon and Google Play. So, yeah, this is kind of a fun way for us to continue to interact with the fans and speak to them almost one-on-one at times and make sure that they're aware of everything going on at Hoop Ball. And this is an important time in the fantasy season where there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. And this gives us a chance.
I feel like it's overreaction season. And it's kind of just a really, I mean, when we're moving into Libsyn and doing all of the internal stuff that's going on here and switching from preseason to regular season, a lot of stuff is going on here. And I want to make sure that when we launch into the premium product, that the folks that have paid are kind of in good hands. And then the folks that still haven't had a chance to really deal with the fallout of their fantasy leagues, that they get a chance within this madness, which is the first couple weeks, to really see what we're doing and then decide, is this something that they'd like to have going forward? I know personally, I look at the first 2 weeks of the season and I still have kind of no idea where everything sits. It's really a small sample size. Teams have played about 4 or 5 games, and some teams are completely upside down from where not only where we thought they'd be, but we still expect them to be. So I just think it's a really pivotal time, and I don't feel good about closing the door on our free listeners just yet until they get to see kind of what happens when the season kicks in, and then after the games, we can give you a little bit better advice other than it's been one game, silly head.
Yeah,
Don't drop Nikola Jokic, or even a week's worth of games. Whereas, you're still sitting here going, this is like every year this happens. The first week of the season comes, people freak out, and then in weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, they feel terrible because they made a deal that just absolutely wrecked their season. And so, yeah, I think we might keep it open a little bit longer. We'll all get together. We'll decide how long we want to keep it open for, but I think it might last a little bit longer than Monday.
Yeah, just a hair longer for now. But I mean, here's the thing: like, don't if you're contemplating it, and hopefully this will be one of the things that kind of pushes you over the edge. Don't just assume it's going to be free forever. This is sort of more than likely this will be the last extension. But it is such a crucial time, and there are so many booms and busts after just a couple of days, and averages are so far skewed that this is a particularly important time to be able to come into a chat room like this one and vent almost more than anything else, because if you're doing things right, you're not overreacting, but sometimes that requires stepping back and kind of being able to talk it out with somebody, and hopefully that's what we're able to do today on this kind of end of the week show, Aaron, because you've got a week and a half in the books now of the NBA, and some things look maybe more permanent than they actually are.
Yeah, I was going to mention too. I mean, the show format being live and on video, and you get to see us and kind of see how we talk about people. You can see confidence levels that way. We can add color to the discussion. When we do our blurbs, they're designed to be short. You need to get in and out and get the information that you need. You might be reading 100 of them in a day if you're trying to catch up. And, there's not a great opportunity to sit there and say, well, if this, then that, or blah, 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 blah. With this format, you can really add the color that's necessary to make a big decision. And that's what we want that nightly show to be, is a lot of Q&A and a lot of drop and add stuff and confidence. What kind of confidence do you have in a situation going forward?
So with that in mind, I want to take just a quick moment to let everybody know you can, again, subscribe to Fantasy NBA Today, this midday show via iTunes now and TuneIn Radio, and it's soon to be more locations. And, of course, we'll have it posted after the show concludes on Hoopball as well. These daytime shows, as I've mentioned before, will not be as heavily live as they have been once we kind of move to the more traditional evening shows or the live chat. Daytime shows less so. Vince and I will likely continue to do a daytime live Thursday show moving forward, even after things get flipped over to the premium membership. So that being said, Aaron, because it is kind of overreaction season, normally we would go through yesterday's box scores chronologically, but I feel like just to kind of continue on this vein, it might be better for us to approach some of the guys that either are currently driving people crazy or were driving them crazy until last night or the night before, and either calm people down or rile them up. And so with that in mind, I think we have to start by talking about Denver, right? Even that game, Denver and Minnesota, you had a Karl Anthony Towns who finally broke through last night with a massive ball game on one side that kind of slammed whatever tiny window there might have been to go and try to get him. And then you had Jokic on the other side, who got himself into early foul trouble, actually played really well in the third quarter, but then was never brought back in the fourth. And that one sort of, the logic there eluded me because Denver was actually giving their lead away with him off the floor. So what's going on with the Nuggets and the T-Wolves? Why can't we get a better read on these two teams?
I don't know. The T-Wolves, I feel like I got a pretty good read on, but the Nuggets are in the middle of the Michael Malone, initiation period is probably the term I would use. He's trying to set tone. He's definitely getting accused locally of not making moves fast enough. I don't really buy a lot of that. I watched Jokic last night in the first half. He looked pretty slow. He looked pretty lost, if you will. And I think what happens is you play preseason, especially with the way that they played him in the preseason. He was a focal point of everything. He was, given a lot of free reign. Nurkic wasn't out there quite as much, I don't think, at least at the same time, in the type of higher pressure situations of preseason, the limited higher pressure situations that preseason has to offer. So when we get here into the regular season, and Malone is very much a meritocracy, when Nurkic gets out there and he's doing what he's doing, looking pretty darn good, it gives Jokic a little less rope. And so if he's a little bit lost, if he's struggling a little bit as a 4 against the other team's smaller 4s, maybe not giving it the right type of offensive effort, and again, struggling on the perimeter against these smaller guys, Malone's going to yank him. And we've seen that so far. I'm not worried about it personally. It's yet another great opportunity to buy low on Jokic. And that third quarter, he did look very good. And then Malone got criticized for not playing him as much down the stretch. So I don't think that kind of thing is going to continue. I'm not worried, really at all about him or Nurkic. I think those guys can play together. And so, yeah, this is your perennial buy low moment on a guy that's going to put up early round value.
It's that fourth quarter was sort of a weird one, and in sort of sizing up this game, at least before the game started, I think a lot of people figured that this would be the one where they got decent production, perhaps at least, from both of those big guys, because Minnesota tends to trot out a pretty big front court too in Gorgui Dieng and Karl-Anthony Towns. But Gorgui Dieng didn't play down the stretch either yesterday. So for everybody that's complaining about Jokic, Dieng was worse. 2 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, and 4 turnovers for Gorgui. So it does seem like to some degree Minnesota played a stretch 4 in Bjelica, and that kind of limited the ability of Denver to bring their extra big back out onto the floor.
Yeah, and Bjelica, was part of their comeback offensively. He was the foil to Dieng earlier last year with Sam Mitchell. So this probably brought back a lot of bad memories for Dieng owners who, again, if you panicked on Gorgui Dieng last year and dealt him or even dropped him, we saw a drop recommendation out of a big box site last year for Gorgui Dieng. I almost I could not believe it. And this guy ended up being a top 40 guy, and he was just a stud throughout pretty much the second 2/3 of the season. So that's, if you're looking at, Jokic or any of these guys and saying, well, what should I be doing here? Go look at Gorgui Dieng's blurbs, from big box sites in November, and them even talking about Bjelica coming in and being a thing. And Bjelica is a guy, if you're wondering about Bjelica, if you're going to pick him up or not, he went 14 points, 8 boards, 1 assist, 2 threes, 5 of 13 shooting, 0 steals or blocks. This guy, if he got 36 minutes per game, his per minute output is terrible. And I keep reading that his per minute output is great. It's not. It's terrible. If he gets 30 minutes per game, he might be a late round value. So do not go out and get Bjelica. Just don't do it. But he's not going to cut into Gorgui Dieng's minutes. And then as far as it related to the game itself, they were just trying to come back, and they felt like his offense was going to be better. And Dieng came into the game on a heater, maybe made something like 70% of his mid-range shots. I will say this about Dieng. He looks like he took another step forward this year. And going up against a pairing of Dieng and Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't blame Michael Malone for looking at other options. And another thing with Denver is they're trying to move Kenneth Faried. And he's actually playing pretty well. Malone's got him playing pretty good defense for what he's capable of playing. He went 8 and 5, a steal and a block, 4 of 4 field goals for 19 minutes. With Faried kind of in the picture, it didn't really have as huge of an impact in this game, but it's going to kind of give them, I think, an incentive to not play Jokic as much early. And if they want to tell Jokic, hey, you got to do this, that, and the other, whether it's on offense or defense, the foil is right there for Kenneth Faried. And so early on, I mean, he might, for the first half of the season, average, say, 25 minutes per game, 26 minutes per game. And then when we get into the second half of the season, Jokic is going to average 33 minutes per game, 34 minutes per game. He might get even higher than that depending on how injuries work around him. So, again, don't worry about Jokic. This is your proverbial buy low moment. And then from the rest of the box score, I don't know. Moutier, 4 of 18 shooting. I don't know if he's ever going to figure it out. Jamal Murray, 0 for 8. I think he's hitting some of those rookie blues. I think Murray's the better player than Moutier. Both of them played big minutes yesterday. That was a little bit of a surprise there. Beyond that, Wilson Chandler, he's got to find another team. I don't know if he will. 19 points, 6 boards, 8 of 12 shooting.
I mean, he finally was able to come out and be relevant in his time, but only because both Gary Harris and Will Barton were gone. That's a lot of minutes on the shelf for Denver.
Yeah, absolutely. Jameer Nelson, 34 minutes. And Jameer is a guy that can continue to play good minutes for any basketball team that he's on. And that's kind of, I think, the concern for Moutier or Murray. I just think Murray's going to outplay Moutier by the end of the year. So if you're looking long-term with the point guard battle in Denver, I think you're going to see Murray end up being the guy there. But yeah, Denver's a little bit interesting, and Michael Malone's ended up being a little bit of a tinkerer. We'll see how that all turns out.
So now I think, again, as we weave our way through yesterday's box scores, less about what order they actually happened and more about the guys that people are having their little baby freakouts. Why don't we jump to the late game, which was not much of a game at all?
Can we touch on Chris Dunn real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to throw a quick, addressing the Chris Dunn thing. 3 points, 1 of 6 shooting, and 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals. That is his ceiling here, folks. I don't think he can do much better than that. I mean, yeah, he could maybe score a little bit more in a game. That's all going to come down to chance if he can get some easy buckets. I don't think he's going to magically become a shooter at any point in time here. But the 5 boards, 9 assists, 3 steals, that is the most you should be expecting going forward. So I think you should have a pretty good picture of what Chris Dunn's value is, not just now, but if he does bust free later in the year. He's not going to be able to, I think, put together the entire package for people and go, say, 5 of 10 shooting with 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals. This is what it's going to be. So when Ricky Rubio comes back and you're looking at Chris Dunn, do I stash him? Just remember these lines. This is his absolute ceiling. You have to be happy with that as a stash.
So now we take a look at that late ball game that, again, was a blowout. And I know one of the names, or two, maybe I should say, two of the names that have been driving people crazy were both in this one. Victor Oladipo on one side and Klay Thompson on the other. And we saw Klay Thompson get a little more engaged in yesterday's ball game. There was that stretch, I think it was probably in the third quarter, if memory serves, although it blurred together a little bit, where you could see the Warriors were comfortably ahead, and so they just started feeding him. Get Klay some shots. Just fire away, kid, until they start going down, and lo and behold, they started going down. So, I mean, again, isn't this a situation here on that side where you were just kind of hoping that maybe he was bad for another game or two and you could pry him loose? Because if I'm owning Klay Thompson, I'm starting to feel a little bit better after yesterday. And if I'm the guy trying to get him, I'm figuring that it's probably not going to happen anymore.
I think he'll be fine. I mean, this stuff always works out this way. You have the new guy that you want to integrate, and that's Kevin Durant. So everybody else doesn't get to eat. And I'm getting a report here from Vince Miracle that my mic is not loud enough, but we'll work with it.
I think your mic sounds just fine.
Yeah, what is Vince talking about?
Crank it up in the studio.
Yeah, Dan says it's okay. So I got a thumbs up. All right. Yeah, I just think that when you get a new guy like Kevin Durant and all the scrutiny that he's going through, you as a teammate, you want him to get his numbers so people can get off his back, probably so you don't have to answer quite as many questions about Kevin Durant. That we've seen happen, and Klay has kind of gone by the wayside, and that's fine. He's like the second or third piece in this offense, and what's going to end up happening is once defenses adjust to what the Warriors are doing with Kevin Durant, the ball's going to filter then to Stephan Curry. We saw that last night as well. He's been pretty consistent since the season started, but nowhere near his high level of play that most of us have come to expect. Steph will get his numbers, and then about a week or two from now, you'll see Klay start to go off. So I think you'll just see signs of that, between now and then. Some of his play later in the game, I think, was a sign of that. I mean, this is a guy that's going to get multiple wide open shots. And you'll also notice this kind of same thing with San Antonio, where Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge had a little bit of trouble becoming passers. For LaMarcus Aldridge, it was more of he's never really played in that kind of system. With Kawhi, he's never really been the number one guy. They're both getting better at being passers within the system. And Kevin Durant was coached by Scott Brooks for years. He doesn't know how to play basketball. He's getting the Steve Kerr lessons, if you will, with the offensive philosophies that he's never really gotten a chance to play with. He's been an isolation guy and not a good one at that. And before you send me your hate about how could Kevin Durant be any of those things, two things can be true at the same time. He can be really, really great at basketball, but also play a poor basketball style and have been undercoached for many years. He's going to learn how to pass, and that's going to filter down to Steph, and it's going to eventually filter to Klay, who's going to get wide open shots at a rate we haven't seen, and his efficiency is going to go through the roof.
Just jumping in here, the fifth starter for the Warriors actually had a pretty good game yesterday. Is that something that you've got your eye on now, or is that more flash in the pan because of how easy of a time they had with OKC?
That's a quintessential Zaza Pachulia big line right there. 4 of 4 shooting, 8 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. He's going to do that. There's too much opportunity for the other team to struggle against the Warriors. When teams get behind, they start doing stupid stuff. They start forcing shots. So you're going to see a lot of garbage time, kind of steals and blocks. He's always been a decent rebounder, a good rebounder at times, and he gets the assists. And if he ever gets to the foul line, he's a great foul shooter. So he might be a sneaky late round, low end pickup while he's healthy. I just worry about Zaza. He's never really been able to make it through a lot of minutes in a year, and you're seeing them keep his minutes down. They'll need one of their kind of bigger, they're one of their bigs. I don't know how they'll do it. Maybe they'll give Verjao and McGee enough minutes, which means we'll get enough Shaqtin' the Fool highlights to last us a lifetime.
Outstanding.
Out of JaVale. But yeah, I would not bank on those numbers though from Zaza.
Yeah, this was actually the first defensive stat of any kind he had posted all season. He had goose eggs in both steals and blocks through their first 4 games, but decent rebounding numbers. Like you said, he's getting 8 a game, and he's only playing 20 minutes a night.
And to be clear, he's not ever going to be a big defensive stat guy. That's not his game.
He's always been a big guy that gets more steals than blocks, too.
Absolutely, and more of a passing big man than anything else.
Yeah, which can be a useful thing. I know that I've got a team where I'm sort of set on bigs but low on assists, so if you want to rotate someone like that in, it's not the worst idea in the world. But yeah, that was a pretty darn good line yesterday. What's your advice for somebody who's hanging on to Victor Oladipo? And at this point, even though he scored a bit last night, this person I think is probably hanging on for dear life because the lack of peripheral stats was astounding.
Yeah. This is the Thunder. This game is an outlier game. The national TV game, Westbrook going back to play Durant in Golden State. This game had just kind of, I don't know what the line was on this game, but I would have taken the Warriors and probably added 10 points, it felt like, just because you knew the Warriors were going to come out with their A game. They were going to come out and try to stop Russell Westbrook. And how does Westbrook respond to that? That's a big question. And it didn't, you obviously saw they got blown out last night. It didn't work for them. That the surrounding pieces with Russell Westbrook, because he has so much gravity, if he's not playing well, then the rest of them are not going to play well until they get comfortable, until he learns how to be a number one guy without a Kevin Durant next to him. We've seen those stretches where KD was injured and out, and it never really quite worked out for the Thunder. And it wasn't due to a lack of talent with Russell Westbrook. It's more of a learning how to be the number one guy and take this gravity that you're getting on the floor and consistently making it work for teammates. I'm not in that Westbrook is, overrated camp where they're talking about his shot attempts and all of that. It's more you bring in new pieces. Victor Oladipo, Steven Adams, his ascent within the offense is relatively new. You've got a little bit of a problem at the power forward position. I know Sabonis had a big night, and I had Sabonis in quite a few leagues. A lot of that came in garbage time. He's looked pretty bad, as a rookie should, in his first week. Maybe he'll get a little bit more run after this. But these pieces are kind of, because Kevin Durant was such a big piece, these newer pieces that are filling in, they're going to take a week or two to get their act together. So I think when you look at the Thunder 3 weeks from now, they're going to look a lot better. And part of that will be Victor Oladipo, to bring it full circle. Right now, he's just kind of standing on the perimeter, doesn't know where to play, how to play off of Russ. It's tough. Russ can get any shot he wants at any time. So where are you as an offensive player supposed to stand? Do you wait for the initial speed burst? Do you kind of hover in the corner, or are you part of the pick and roll, which isn't really going to happen, at least initially, with both of those two guys playing at the guard position. So you got a lot of question marks there. Victor Oladipo, buy low. Do not read into this. Do not get freaked out by this. Buy low.
All right, Boston, Cleveland. There's another absurdly high-scoring game. I got 2 or 3 guys I want to highlight, and then feel free to illuminate others if indeed you feel they are relevant. On the Cleveland side, not many. Iman Shumpert had a nice ball game, so he's a guy I wanted to point out. And Tristan Thompson seems to be kind of starting to find his niche a little bit more. An oddly high number of defensive stats for Thompson in this ball game. And then on the Celtics side, the issue at center right now with Horford out certainly coming into play, and the issue for kind of filling up the other minutes with Jay Crowder out, where last night you saw Jalen Brown play 35 minutes and have himself quite a ball game. Now, I joke about the Cal Bears thing a lot, and we have fun on the program, but he actually had a nice ball game. But, everything in Boston feels a little tenuous given the injury situation. So where do you stand on some of these guys that are kind of filling in? And on the Cleveland side, is this the year we finally do see an actual position battle at shooting guard?
I guess let's start in Boston. You saw the fill-in effect for sure. So, I mean, long-term, looking at Jalen Brown, who I think is probably the guy everybody wants to talk about, that's just not going to be a thing. What we're really weighing with Jalen Brown is he capable of changing his stat set? Because coming out of Cal, his stat set was as bad as anybody that I've seen coming out of college in terms of fantasy production. And that was the thing you worried about is, okay, A, he's not going to get more than 20 some odd minutes. B, he didn't look great in the preseason or in a summer league even. And so how could you really justify, even in a dynasty league, putting a lot into him? Now, the caveat to all that was his athleticism, his ability to shoot the three brings into question, can he just make all those numbers go away? Because it's different systems. It's night and day, Cal versus Boston. And can he start to have that Jay Crowder-like leap, which, by the way, they play the same position for the same team. So it's not hard to wander over one slot and say, hey, this might happen with Jay Crowder. Because when Jay was in Dallas, he had the same problems. His stat set didn't really support fantasy value all that much. So I don't know. It at least opened my eyes to the idea that Jalen Brown could possibly be that guy. One game's not going to really move me, but at least it opened my eyes to that. I'm not running out to pick him up, and I don't think you should. I mean, if you want to pick him up for a short-term pickup to see what might happen for 2 games, keep your expectations low, and then I think you could go do that. The biggest story out of Boston, though, is Avery Bradley. He's a guy that we said to you guys was going to unlock his offensive game. He's going to take 2 to 3 steps forward. He's done that, and that is just awesome. His rebounding has been great. 26 and 10 last night. He's a bona fide offensive threat, making the Celtics that much more competitive against the Cavs. It's an interesting game on national TV last night to see them compete down the stretch. I just want to see if I think my prediction right now is that they can push a game 6 in the finals. In the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, they held it together pretty well without 2 of their starters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the kind of interchangeable parts. I don't want to make too much of a deal about Jay Crowder's absence, even though it's he's a great defender on LeBron, or at least a slower downer, if you will. And Yeah, it's. I just like these two teams playing. I hope to see more of these games on national TV. I'm sure we will. But
So
the Cavs side,
yeah, what about that Cavs side? You saw Shumpert actually put together a nice ball game, and overall, there are times where he looks like the better player between he and J.R. Smith, but it hasn't really materialized, and Shumpert seems like he gets hurt every year.
all I know is J.R. Smith's shirt was off by like the 5th inning in the game the other night, and I saw the cutaway of LeBron chugging a beer, and then they said that his wife was smoking something, a cigarette. I don't know. I didn't see the smoking part, but I did see LeBron hilariously chug a beer. Like, I got like a 5-second window here. I gotta chug this. And then so JR shirt off by the 5th inning. Who knows what happened last night? And 1 of 5, 35 minutes. I mean, they went with him. 3 steals, 2 blocks. That's not bad. I'm not worried about J.R. Smith. And Iman Shumpert, this might be his best line of the year. So I'm not hopping on Shumpert. And other than that, the comment I'd like to make about the Cavs is I think Kevin Love is going to overperform this year. I think he's going to crush his ADP. And I think that he's going to get a little bit of the monkey off of his back, similarly to the way Chris Bosh did it in his 3rd season with the Heat. He's going to answer the call, and I think people are going to be pretty happy with him this year.
A couple of early games yesterday that we haven't touched upon yet. Indiana was in Milwaukee, and the Bucks played probably their best game of the season with contributions, albeit they small ones, from guys like Tony Snell and Malcolm Brogdon, who had a nice ball game, and then of course big lines from Giannis Antetokounmpo as usual. Greg Monroe played one of his best games of the year, and Jabari Parker finally did something, and he did something in a big way. But that's all well and good. Obviously, there are 3 guys on that team that are owned in pretty much every single league out there. Dellavedova was quieter yesterday, possibly because of a point guard situation developing, or no?
No. I don't think that Dellavedova has anything to worry about there. But Jason Kidd is the master. He's probably now the Scott Skiles of the NBA.
Yeah, when Skiles gone.
Yeah, I mean, really, and some of this stuff, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, you look at Greg Monroe, 16, 6, and 6. I own Greg Monroe in quite a few spots, not because I went into the season targeting him, but the lack of hype, he would just fall to me. And I'm sitting there going in the 8th round, 9th round, like, wait a second, this is Greg Monroe we're talking about here.
Why is this guy still here?
So I'm on the train and I'm watching it go, and I'm not expecting a ton, and I'm thinking maybe he could get a trade and this will even out a little bit. But 16, 6, and 6 in 26 minutes on 6 of 10 shooting, that's a lot of 6s there. And he's just going to be up and down, and I think you just kind of have to set it and forget it. And at least, maybe you sit him in a 3-game week if you're on a weekly lineup. But I think other than that, you got to go into it expecting late round value at a minimum, and then mid round value when it all averages out. So he's an interesting one. Dellavedova, don't worry about him; he'll be fine. The interesting thing here too is the Pacers are they're struggling and giving up these kind of bigger losses, and so you kind of wonder what's going on with them and how it relates to the Bucks. I mean, you see the end result is a lot of nice box scores for a lot of the team. And you know that the Pacers are struggling when a guy like Jabari Parker does get off 27 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 4 threes. He has not been doing any of that lately. And so that's what owners were hoping to see out of Jabari Parker. Will this kickstart him? I would say probably bet against it, because we don't know what Jason Kidd's going to do. I mean, we have that many moving parts. How do you have development on a consistent basis in the areas that fantasy owners are really talking about and hoping they get, which is 3-point shooting?
Well, and then here on the Indiana side, when your best game of the night is CJ Miles, that means you probably lost.
Yeah. Well, yeah. CJ Miles, quickly on CJ Miles, what you have to do with CJ Miles is the first sign of this kind of thing. You have to just throw caution to the wind and gamble. Like, just
run him out there for a week.
Because if you wait until he has 4 good games, you just missed it.
Yep.
That's it. you just got to gamble with him. So just keep that in mind if you're in a daily league streaming or whatever have you.
You know, it might not be that he cools off either after those 4 good games. It seems like there's about an 80% chance that he has, you know, a slightly sore right calf or, you know, a particularly bad bug bite or something. And
he is capable of going for 15 games. Like, so that's not out of the question for him. You never know with the Pacers, I guess, right now. Myles Turner, this is why you don't get excited over the first week of the season, guys. 15 points, 2 boards, 2 steals, 1 3. Love Myles Turner, the talent. Love Myles Turner, the player. He's going to be great. But if this line happened on the first day of the season, the narrative surrounding Myles Turner would be completely different. But really, it's just 1 of 5 games. So people right now believe that Myles Turner is the bee's knees. And he is that. But in fantasy leagues, where does that actually land? You know, right now, I'd probably still keep him in that top 50 range. And whereas at the beginning of the season, we had him in like the top 60 range.
Yeah, if you're trying to
get
mentality. Wait, sorry, go ahead.
The mentality out there is that he's like a top 20 guy. And so that's an opportunity. I don't think you might not be able to sell high after this game, but if you had him prior to this game, that would have been a prime position to try to roll into a top 30 asset.
That would have been pretty good foresight. And you might even still be able to do it because, like you said, those first few Giant games kind of set everybody's mind up in a particular way where they're thinking about him as one thing, and it's going to take a few slower games before they forget it.
When they rolled out the Mission Accomplished banner for Nikola Mirotic last year, that thing lasted all year. I mean, really. And so that's kind of what you got to do in this first couple of weeks. And why, again, I wanted to kind of float the idea of keeping this show free for a little bit longer is I just feel like we're talking about a lot of BS.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have great markers for evaluations. So I want some folks to see when we have actual markers and we can actually give good recommendations, because these recommendations right now, we got to wait and see on a lot of these guys.
All right. So let me ask you this question. It's pretty open-ended. Is there any player at all you really want to talk about in Sacramento or Orlando? Because when I look at this box score, it doesn't move me.
Yeah, you know, obviously Willie Cauley-Stein. There are folks out there that you know, I rightfully want to bury him, and I would say from a ad drop standpoint, he's not a must-own player. What Willie Cauley-Stein is dealing with right now is a complete loss of confidence. He's totally lost out there. And I think what happens with Willie is he just gets in his own head. So I don't know when the resurgence will be. It will happen. It will click for him, and he will start finding out where to stand on the floor. And that will be whenever Willie feels like doing it.
All right. We're on Willie time.
Yeah, so I don't think that it's like we shouldn't be having like a free Willie, you know, campaign like there was last year. He's going to have to figure it out. And with the Kings offense, what you're also seeing is that Jaeger actually said this, is that they're running about 20% of their offense right now. And you can see it in their motions. They're moving mechanically, and they're getting bogged down. And so it's funny, you almost want a little bit of that George Karl flow that really killed them last year. But right now, a little drop of it wouldn't hurt them. Ty Lawson got back on the board, 11.7 boards, 5 assists. Pretty much that train's coming to an end. If he can't produce with a full boat of minutes, he's not going to be consistent when Darren Collison gets back. Cousins is Cousins. Rudy's having a great season so far. I don't know. I don't think, you know, Matt Barnes 9 minutes is probably something we got to touch on. He's hurt.
Hurt. That rib thing is getting bad.
It's a 5-game week. He's hurt. I wouldn't jump ship just yet because, again, last night they lost to the Magic, and I'll just tell you locally, the sky is falling. And this was a pivotal loss for this team where if they won, they'd have been 3-3, and everybody would have been saying they're playing better than everybody expected. Now they're 2-4 and lost to the Magic, 3rd loss in a row. Everybody's like, okay, what's going on with the Kings? And so to fix that, if you're the Kings, Matt Barnes is the answer or part of the answer. So I don't think, unless he's really, really hurt, there's going to be any playing time aspect of this. I think you'll see more Matt Barnes, more Garrett Temple. these are the guys that kind of led them to their good outcomes. Omri Caspi, he gets 23 minutes and they lose. I don't think that's going to necessarily be good for his minutes. So yeah, that's the Kings update.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking, is that it's a little ugly. In terms of tonight, reasonably large card, 9 games on a Friday night. So rather than lightning round our way through the entire thing, because again, we are still so early. Sorry, go ahead.
Can we quickly talk about Serge Ibaka?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, didn't we sort of try to warn everybody that drafting someone in the Orlando logjam was either going to be a long-term proposition or maybe just not a great one at all?
I just think that like positioning him as a potential early round value was like, that could cripple your fantasy team.
Brutal.
Cripple. If somebody drafted him in the 5th round or the 4th round thinking like this guy could get top 20 value, he can't. He just can't. It's not even a possibility. 17 points, 3 boards, 1 block.
He stopped rebounding.
He doesn't rebound anymore. And he doesn't really block anymore. He's a shooter. He's a shooting guard. And I remember it was like, I think it was James Ham on the CSN Insider, or pardon me, the CSN postgame was like, yeah, he's just a shooter now. I mean, it's not like it's a big surprise out there, but you see this out there on major fantasy sites, and that's value for you guys. Yeah. That's value if you had drafted Serge Ibaka or you somehow come across Serge Ibaka, you know what his value is. Aaron Gordon had a big night. Vooch isn't going to do anything this year. Fournier is pretty good.
They just what a bunch of mismatched puzzle pieces they've got in Orlando right now.
That is dead man walking in Orlando. Rob Hennigan, GM, they have to go on a tear, in my opinion, and it's not going to happen.
They got to make a move. Somebody's got to get fired.
You don't see a coach walk away from a job that often either. Over an Elfrid Payton. I could see it being over like a household name or something of, great value. We're talking about Elfrid Payton here.
Yeah.
So anyway,
world beater. Yeah, so that's a mess. I mean, they got to set fire to something. Somebody's got to go. I mean, if you try to pin this on a coach, that's crazy. If you try to even if you try to pin it on the players, it's kind of crazy because they're just not. It's not a good match.
And on the flip side, you got Frank Vogel, who's a good coach. So I think this team actually will kind of overperform a little bit. With what they have. Once you say, okay, this is what we have, I think they will overperform a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Vogel can save Hennigan. I don't know, but it's
that's his last hope.
I would expect them to play well, but that bodes well for Aaron Gordon, and I think you're seeing Aaron Gordon do what he was supposed to do. And, I think you're going to see Fournier do what he's supposed to do. Yep. It's everything else that's a question mark, though. And can they get a trade that's reasonable that works out?
Yeah, that's tough because you're likely selling low because other teams can look at him and say these guys need to move something because it's not working right. So I'm not going to overpay for it. But in any event, Orlando is not playing tonight, so you're not going to be subject to that madness for another day or so. A lot of games going on. What are the teams, Aaron, that you're kind of looking at? The places where you've got the microscope cranked up to a little bit of a higher magnification. I know for me, going into this 9-game card, one of the places that I'm looking is that Portland-Dallas game. I'm still watching to see if something kind of rises from the ashes and someone takes it a bigger piece of the pie. New Orleans and Brooklyn are probably the other 2 teams that I'm actually watching the closest for fantasy value. And then, of course, Josh Richardson is supposed to make his season debut tonight as well. What are you looking at this evening?
Yeah, you hit a lot of them, and I think it's just funny that as fantasy players, we watch so many bad basketball teams.
I picked like the worst 3 or 4 games on the board.
I'm like a Philadelphia 76ers expert, and like somebody on the radio will like ask me a Sixers question, and then they're like, "Whoa, this guy knows like the 13th guy on the roster."
But we
What's
never
up with him.
We never want to talk about the top 2 or 3 teams because everybody knows what you're going to get out of those guys.
Absolutely. And I actually get annoyed on the radio when I get asked about like the Cavs and the Warriors. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, this isn't those guys are all off the board
at all. You're giving me a Jeremy Grant Hollis Thompson battle, and I'm all in. Yeah.
That's a sweet that's a pretty good pickup game right there. Not much for fantasy though.
Yeah, right. No, I'm looking at I kind of want to see the Lakers I want to see them start to take steps forward. Golden State, how do they play coming off of a, kind of a bigger game against a bad team in LA?
It's a little bit of a letdown game, potentially.
I mean, that is letdown written all over it. I don't know what the line is there. I hate to bet against the Warriors.
Warriors by 11 with a
Didn't
total.
the Warriors, they lost in LA in this situation last year. So
They did.
That might prohibit a major letdown because Kerr can put that on the whiteboard like, hey, guys, whatever you do tonight, just don't do what you did last year.
By the way, the total on this game, 228. That might be the highest line I've ever seen since.
Then you got the Luke Walton subplot, and so he'll be able to tell the Lakers a few things that they can do to slow down the Warriors. Interesting. I might if I'm betting, I might take LAL. The Washington Wizards, I want to just see how they're, progressing under Scott Brooks and how the pieces, especially at small forward and power forward, are going to continue to gel. I think we've seen signs of life out of Otto Porter. I want to keep seeing those.
Well, you were talking about the sky falling in Sacramento. I've got to think that the sky is really falling in DC right now.
Yeah, I've not been high on them. I think I took the under on them when I went to Reno. And I think as far as I think it'll be interesting to see if the Scott Brooks acolytes out there are continuing to, ring that bell if Washington just crumbles under his watch.
I want to see if Terrence Jones plays 28 minutes again in New Orleans, or if that was a flash in the pan. That's another one I'm looking at.
That's a huge, you wonder, it could be one of those things where it's a new player and a new team, and Alvin Gentry's like, hey, you got to kind of earn your spot here. And so that might be an explanation for why he disappeared in the first week, which he's probably available on waiver wires, and you got to go run and at least try to pick him up where you can and take a chance there. Because back in the day when he was with Houston, he would have mid-round upside, and you don't find that on the waiver wire. So New Orleans profiles a lot like Houston in the sense that he could get those minutes. And so that's something I would be watching out for. And then also Zach Lowe dropped in his podcast, or I forget where he dropped it, but that Drew Holiday could be coming back soon.
That would be huge.
That's going to come out of nowhere, by the way. You're just going to wake up one day and there's going to be an article or a blurb that says he's playing tonight.
Yeah, because he's not hurt. So there isn't, he's got to work his way back. It's just conditioning. Get him on the court running suicides for a game, and then he's ready to go.
Yeah, small market media is not like, New York media where you get every update every second of the day. This is just going to pop up out of nowhere. And
we get more updates on Joakim Noah's hair than we do on Drew Holiday's return to the basketball court.
Absolutely. And now Tim Frazier owners might want to use that to their advantage and say, hey, there's not a lot of buzz about Drew Holiday's return outside of a blurb. And now let's sell him high. Now, I think he might actually continue to have some low-end value for deeper leagues. I don't know if they'll completely go away from him, but that's something to look at there. Their opponent, Phoenix, I kind of want to see what's going on with Devin Booker. He's had a slow start with a toe injury. That's a buy low opportunity if I've ever seen one. Chicago, New York. When will Chicago implode and when will New York implode?
New York is well on their way. Chicago's been the fuse is not yet lit. They've been better.
They've been over. Yeah, they've been over. This is the Rajon Rondo story arc, is that everything will be great in the first couple weeks. What a great passer. Everybody loves him. And then by the time week 4, 5, and 6 roll around, everybody's tired of hearing his voice on the court. And then it all goes downhill from there. You can book it. Brooklyn is a big one. I mean, what's going on with Sean Kilpatrick and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson? That's a big storyline there. And then Justin Hamilton, actually, I've been happy with his performance. When Brook Lopez comes back and he gets his big games, Justin Hamilton's not going to give you big numbers. You shouldn't be looking for that. What you're looking for with Justin Hamilton is that he gives you top 150 numbers in those games. So, I think he had I want to say 5 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block the other day. And that to me is fine. You're looking at that and you're going, he gave you something. You're looking at him as a holdover that you can plug into your lineup when needed. But the big $1 million thing here is that Brook Lopez, when he doesn't play, or if he gets hurt, or if the team starts to crumble, due to injuries, you're going to see Justin Hamilton's minutes continue to rise. and he'll be, instead of a top 150 guy, he'll be a top 140 guy. He'll be a top 130 guy. He'll be a top 120 guy. And then it'll hit. When it hits, he will be a top 50 guy. So you're looking at him as that. This is what you're looking for in a stash, somebody that you could plug in a moment's notice, get something that's all right, but really you're looking for that top 50 upside. And that's why I made a big bid for him in my fantasy leagues. And so far I'm all right with what he's been doing.
Want to remind everybody here as we turn our attention to the chat room for lightning round time, Aaron. I think we've got about 6 or 7 minutes left on the program. Again, subscribe. We are becoming available in far more markets. iTunes, Fantasy NBA Today. It's not searchable yet. It takes about 2 days to get added to the iTunes store. But we got the link posted on Hoopball. We've got the link posted in this live video feed. So there are a lot of places to find it. Again, it's available on TuneIn now, on Stitcher, coming shortly, and Google Play. I believe as soon as they get their podcast situation sorted out, it'll be there as well. So do make sure to subscribe to that, because when we go to a recorded format more, not exclusively, but certainly more often, you'll want to make sure that thing pops into your phone the second that it becomes available. Hoopball app is not far away, Aaron. I know that's something that's been an awesome project that is probably going to be available in the next week or two. And follow us on Twitter, because Aaron has 20-something thousand followers. He's probably going to be a little busy to answer those questions, but myself, Vince, the other Hoopball experts, we are available, and we answer your questions via social media as well. I am at Dan Besbris. He is at Aaron Bruski. The website is at Hoopball Tweets, and hoop-ball.com is the actual homepage for it. All right, Aaron, strapping the seatbelt in. We're going to blitz our way through the chat room here and try to hit as many of these questions as we can, as quickly as we can, without trying to skip anything. Is your belt buckle safely attached?
I am strapping myself in and getting ready to feel the G's.
All right, we're going to accelerate quickly here. Adrian Benjamins, who often has our first question in the chat room, says, Happy Friday. This deal just went down in his league. It's 11-team, 8-cat roto. Who is the winner? Boogie and Gary Harris for Brook Lopez and Klay Thompson.
Boogie's the winner. 8
like
cats.
Yeah, that's
eight cats. You got to go Boogie. And you want the best player in the deal.
Yeah, and that probably flips for 9-cat, doesn't it?
It might, yeah, because I think Klay Thompson at that point can be a better player than Boogie, and then you have more value on the Klay Thompson side than you did on the Boogie side.
Interesting. He also asked if we like Jalen Brown as a short-term pickup. I believe we hit that during the normal course of the podcast. The answer was yes for short and no for. And
I also added don't expect a lot.
Yeah, last night might be the best line you see for at least half a year, wouldn't you think?
It might be his best line of the year, folks.
Yeah,
I've actually put a good amount of money on that.
I'm leaving the opening that another injury forces him into a TV game guarding LeBron, and he just sort of wakes up for it. But still, go Bears. SKD Media says, anyone looking at Donatus in dynasty formats with the Rocks upping their offer to him?
Yeah, if you're in a dynasty format where players named Donatus are given extra weight. No, I'm just playing. In a dynasty format, yeah, I actually had Donatus in, I want to say top 150 in the Bruski 150, based on the fact that he will get the majority of minutes, and I think he will kind of plod his way towards towards that goal of getting into the top 150. I don't know that. What we need to see out of Donatus is further development on his three-point shot, and he's going to have to get a lot tougher on the inside in order to get the big minutes that will justify a stash in dynasty leagues. But yeah, I like him in a dynasty league. Absolutely.
What are you expecting tonight from Josh Richardson if we can wedge this into about a 20-second expectation?
Let's go 20 minutes with 6 points on 2 of 4 shooting, 1 3, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals, 0 blocks.
So what you're saying is, and I'm asking you a follow-up question, which is obviously not really the theme of a lightning round, but I'm doing it anyway. What you're saying is if you're in a relatively shallow league and he hasn't been picked up yet, you might even have one more game before you have to go and get him. But I know, Aaron, I know you really like having these assets on the Heat, so you'd probably recommend people go get him now.
In a shallow league, it kind of changes the dynamic because I think he's a top 125 guy at a base level. And so that's not helping you in a 10-team league. It helps you in a 12-team league. It makes it more of a must-pick-up type of a situation. In a shallow league, you could wait and see. But other than that, in a 12-team, pick them up.
Question for you guys. 12-team redraft. I have KP, Vuk, Jeng, Nico, A. Gordon, and Noel, all on IR. Should I drop Robin Lopez for Gary Harris? I feel like it's a yes, but I thought I'd toss it out there. That's a question from SKD.
Those bigs again, one more time.
Let's see. We got KP, Vuk, Jeng, Nico, Aaron Gordon, and Nerlens Noel on the IR.
Aaron Gordon should not be on the IR.
I'm thinking that he must have just meant Noel on the IR, just the last name there.
You got enough. Like when Noel gets back, you might have enough big men to get through this. Because Lopez, if you get rid of him now, you've gotten rid of a big, and I think you're kind of thin there. But Gary Harris is going to be a top 100 guy, and again, that's maybe not enough to like make big decisions based on, but I also think he has enough upside to be a top 60 guy. Once you, if he could get back on the floor soon, this 2-week absence might make his season-long value a little bit not as good as what it could have been. But yeah, I'm a big Gary Harris guy, and I think you make that deal or you make that move.
3 players to rank: Ennis, Mills, and Nance, just for tonight.
Oh wow, Ennis, Mills, and Nance.
If you were going to roll them out tonight, what order would you roll them out in?
Oh, where's OKC playing? I thought they played 2 games in a row. Ennis? Oh, James Ennis. Gotcha.
Yeah, it must be Memphis's Ennis.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was Ennis Cantor in all of his 3 minutes last night and his failed trash talk. But I like that, Ennis. You just keep going with that trash talk. You let KD know what's up with that lack of trust and transparency and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. So we had James Ennis. We had Larry Nance. And who was my third?
Patty Mills is your third. I actually like Nance.
Yeah, see, it was either going to be Nance or Mills. I don't think Ennis, for everything that, he's got going for him in Memphis right now, and LAC having a little bit of a weakness at small forward. I'm not worried about swinging and missing on him. I think he's going to get you 10 points, 4 boards, a 3, and a steal type thing. And then Nance could carve up, so to speak, relatively speaking, a disinterested Golden State front court and really give them trouble because they can't get above the rim, and he's way above the rim. So I like him over Ennis, and I've already forgot the other guy. Who's the other guy?
We had James Ennis, Patty Mills, and Larry Nance.
See, Patty is probably the safe. He's the middle of the road safe play. If you don't feel like gambling, you go with Patty as like the middle guy, Ennis on the bottom, and then Nance is the guy that I would personally play.
By the way, we got a lot of feedback on our show opening song. I just hadn't scrolled that far down the chat window yet. It was generally positive, although there was a knock on the karaoke portion of it. So, AB, I think we got to pick a song that you and I are not going to want to sing to next week. And I don't know how you do that, because if it's an awesome...
Wait. What was the knock on the karaoke portion?
It was... I will try to find and read it aloud here. Where did that...
I will never listen again if these assholes keep doing that.
And it was, I think, I can't start Friday with karaoke, but I lost the quote.
Okay. Well, that's not too... That's just, he's not ready. They're not ready for karaoke on Friday mornings.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, get ready.
Walk to a beat of a different drum. That's okay.
It's coming, man. We're going to have a new song every week. Okay, here's a tough one. 20-team league, head-to-head 9-cat. Traded Jimmy Butler and Kyrie Irving for Damian Lillard and Myles Turner. Do you like this move?
Give me the names again. I'm going to write them down because I haven't had enough coffee yet today. What do we got? We got
Butler and Kyrie for Lillard and Myles Turner.
Lillard and Turner. In a 9-cat league, the winner
20-team head-to-head
by unanimous decision is very close. It's going to be
I was going to say
I kind of like the Lillard side, and here's why. Lillard is on a mission this year. He's going to really try to put up numbers. I think he's disappointed by his output last year, and more importantly, he's healthy. Myles Turner, he's going to turn the ball over quite a bit with what he does out there. I don't know what his turnover number is this year, but I would expect him to have a little bit more turnovers than he had last year. Then on the other side, you're looking at both Butler and Kyrie with little red flags. You've got Kyrie, end of the year stuff, scheduled rest. I think he's going to have a big year, but where does that put him in the grand scheme of things in a 9-cat league? Jimmy Butler, obviously, the things we talked about that you already know about with potential for implosion. He's also played a lot of Tibbs minutes. So those two things compared to the guys that you got in a relatively even value swap, I'm going to take the Lillard Turner side. Now, was that the side that he picked? Our reader.
It is. I think he got Lillard and Turner.
Congratulations, reader. You did the right thing.
There you go. Tony Snell or Malcolm Brogdon, worth a pickup for just the weekend?
I don't know in what league we're talking about here, but if you're, I would go with Brogdon because I think he's at least got like a future in this league. Snell, I don't know.
Pretty much
they're gonna
and nothing else with Tony.
Yeah, we could dice this up a million different ways, but I think Brogdon's the guy I would look at, and then you got to tell me who you're dropping. You got to tell me who else is out there before I can answer that question.
Jokic or Jang in a 12-team head-to-head league?
You mean like tonight?
I guess just in general. Who do you like
just
more?
In general? Jokic.
Should I drop Isaiah Cannon if he doesn't impress me this weekend? I don't know if you even need the if at that and in that sentence, right?
Maybe he's in a league where that kind of production matters. Yeah, I would be dropping him. If he doesn't keep up what he needs to be doing, I would be dropping him. Look, Cannon is actually, that team is so hilarious. Cannon is a guy that you give him the ball, he's either going to shoot it. And maybe if he doesn't shoot it, he will pass for an assist. That is like the worst kind of guy you could, even though he shoots threes and they need that. It's just funny. Like, what were they thinking in Chicago through this entire process? It is the funniest team I've ever seen assembled.
It is. I got to admit, I'm really enjoying watching them because it's just
I am too. I'm actually enjoying them playing well because I want to see it work, so there's a lot to talk about here.
And then you get to watch the ceiling fall in.
Yeah, exactly.
Denver and Milwaukee have a back-to-back this week on Saturday and Sunday. Would you start Malcolm Brogdon or Wilson Chandler?
Oh, Chandler.
What do you expect? No, that one actually we sort of already talked a little bit about it, but these questions are coming in towards the last minute. I'll do a quick rehash of what we already talked about. There were some questions on Terrence Jones with Dante Cunningham out. Again, we are watching that ball game like a hawk to see if maybe indeed he's starting to squeeze.
Yeah, this could be his breakout moment. I forgot to mention that earlier with Cunningham having his little, whatever they're calling it, reckless driving
issue
incident.
Yeah.
That could be the narrative that they needed to push him out there, and it could give him the big game that he needs to kind of put distance between himself and the other players.
All right, 3 questions. We're going to do them in 1 minute. This guy just got an offer of Jimmy Butler and Kristaps Porzingis, and he would have to trade away Karl-Anthony Towns and Rodney Hood. Should he take it?
These trade questions are not built for 1 minute, but I'm going to say you do not trade Karl-Anthony Towns. If you trade Karl-Anthony Towns, I will personally show up at your house and put a pie in your face. Because that's a pretty funny thing to do to somebody.
And that's what I was going to say. I was really concerned you were about to say something awful, but no, that's way more fun. Any chance Montrezl Harrell cuts into Clint Capella's minutes more permanently?
I hate this question. I don't see it. It's because it's so like recency bias. He'll have a good game, and then it's like, oh wait, by the way, he's not that good.
Yeah,
he can't really do what Capella can do. So yeah,
and Nene was out in that ball.
Exactly. It's gonna be Capella over.
I like
Montrezl
this
Harrell.
I got a good last question for you because there's really no stipulations on it. Angel Delgado says, should I trade Serge Ibaka? Yeah,
wait
you should
until he has a monster game and then just get anything you can get. I mean, get something in the top 80, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he has a really big
You
game,
know what though? Here, don't even limit it to like the top 60, top 70 after that big game, because really, I mean, if you trade for something that's going to be worse than that, you could probably just pick it up off the wire. And what you have a bigger name than, probably there's somebody else that will make that trade at some point in time down the line. Just put a little reminder on something that you're going to trade Serge Ibaka after a big game.
it's a little.
Live with the results. And the only way that burns you is if they trade Vucevic and he becomes like a top 50 guy.
Yeah, that's
I mean, who knows? What we learned about waiting for trades is look at the Derek Favors thing from a few years back. We held Derek Favors all year, expecting the Jazz to trade Al Jefferson, and it never happened. So waiting for this theoretical trade is sometimes bad business.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, at some point, on the trade side at least, you kind of have to go with what is currently the case, unless you know something that we don't, because it's way too easy to get burned in something where you honestly don't even know the upside, and you don't know how long you'd have to wait for it anyway. So that will bring us to our conclusion. We ran just a hair long, but I feel like we had a lot of questions and a lot of folks that were joining us for the first time. Thanks so much for checking in with Fantasy NBA today. He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. Here's what's coming up in the Hoop Ball lineup. Vince will be back with you tonight for a reaction show on Friday. That'll be around 9 p.m. this evening Pacific time. He'll get going with that one. Aaron will have a waiver show on Sunday, and then we will scoop back into the normal Monday mix. We'll have the weekly lineup show, and it sounds like, Aaron, that'll be free for one more week, yeah?
Yeah, I think we'll go free for Monday at a minimum, and we might look till Friday.
Yeah, just put it. We can make it another 7 days. I think that's the safe play right now. That's like the Patty Mills of this decision making.
I'm a terrible businessman. I just keep giving stuff away.
I kind of pushed you into that one. Mark D. Spark.
Right. But I'm a man of the people, for the people. We try to help the people here at Hoop Ball.
Here, you want to feel good on the way out?
Sure, let's feel good.
Mark D. Spark says Hoop Ball is greater than Roto World.
Boom! Roasted.
You heard it here. First, at Fantasy NBA Today's live chat. Again, subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, TuneIn, all that good stuff. Follow Hoop Ball tweets, Aaron Bruski and Dan Besbris on Twitter. And you'll hear from me in a couple of days. You'll hear from Aaron on Sunday. Make sure to check out Vince tonight. Again, really important night. 3 or 4 games definitely worth watching. Moves potentially that you should be making as you watch those games when you kind of get some confirmation on who's playing some minutes. So get in front of a television tonight, get in front of a box score, order League Pass if you haven't done it already, because there's really no better tool. And join us in the not too distant future. And look, there's Vince hanging out in the chat room like a regular Joe. He says promo code is SWISH for 15% off the premium in-season membership. SWISH. Go get that right now. Even though we got a free week for you, you'll want it by the time we get to the week after next. Again, he's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. For everybody here at Hoop Ball, have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch up with you soon.